Hey guys, I'm going to show you some vocal tracking here. I'm going to show you how to do some tricks and what to pay attention to make your vocals sound a little bit clearer, a little bit cleaner. And this might even work if you're not a vocalist like me. I'll show you how to make reasonable vocal tracks so that you can maybe try and get your songs out there, even if you can't find a vocalist, because I know that vocalists are very hard to find around these days. This first bit is just going to be a lot of me talking about mic setups and things. So if that's something that you're not interested in, skip ahead a few minutes and we'll get into the actual DAW stuff. But to start off with, I just want to talk about the actual microphone and everything a little bit. People seem to be concerned a little bit about the brands of microphones that they have, what microphone they're using. To be honest, for the most part, it doesn't matter, as any reasonable microphone will get the job done. I'm just talking into like a knockoff SM57 type microphone just to show you that it's not you don't need anything expensive or fancy to do the job. It's about learning what you're listening to and these concepts that I'm going to teach you. So I'm not exactly going to teach you any settings or anything. I'm going to teach you more concepts and some tricks on how to think about things and what to listen for. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the mic setup and position. So how close or how far away you are from the mic, where you have the mic positioned in relation to your mouth. So you could have it above your mouth, below your mouth. These all make different sounds. So really, I'd just say experiment with it. People will tell you all the different sounds, but the best way to take any of this stuff is to listen for yourself and make your own descriptions of what things sound like to you. It's no point going off somebody else's description of what something should sound like or does sound like. You need to just make your own mind up so that you can get your own picture in your own mind of what something sounds like. So that being said, one thing that does make a big difference is what's called proximity effect. So that means it's how close you are or how far you are from the microphone. So at the moment, I'm probably, I'm from Australia, so I'm probably about 5 to 10 centimeters away from the microphone now. I feel like my voice sounds reasonably even, but if I come closer, I will get more bass build up on my voice. So if I come closer, you can hear how much more bass is in my voice. Yes, I get louder, but disregarding that, the actual change to my voice is a lot more low end and everything in it. And as I bring it back here, everything starts to even out. So what you want to do firstly is do some of your singing like closer to the mic, further away, and work out your rough distance of where you want to be in relation to the mic. Now, something else to note in relation to that is the closer you are to the mic. So if I'm right up on here, any little movements is going to change the tone of my voice. It's going to make a drastic change. As I move further back here, it's going to make less of a change. So I want to try and find a happy medium where I'm getting a good balance of sound and it gives me a little bit of area to move around, because a singer's not going to stand like a robot solid and still the whole entire time. It's not a robotic setup. They're a person. They're going to move and feel the music. So you want to allow a little bit of movement there without any sort of detrimental effect to the sound. So you want to try and find yourself a good balance there. You don't want to be going too far back. If I start sitting right back here, I'm miles back and I sound like I'm far in the distance. So I want to bring it forward till I'm sort of a good distance. A good distance would be, 5 to 10, 15 centimeters. Sort of maybe like if I put my palm in front of my face sideways, that's about how far I am from the mic. So sort of put my hand sideways in front of me, sort of facing up and down vertically, put it in front of my mouth, and that's about the distance from the mic that I find is pretty good. The next thing to talk about is reflections. So that is when you make a sound, it comes out of whatever the sound source is. So in this case, it's your mouth. The sound comes out of your mouth. It's like water waves that ripple through the air. So it ripples through the air, bounces every surface in your room, hits every surface in your room and bounces back. That bounces back into the mic, which is called reflections. So that's where, when I'm closer to the mic, there's less reflections, so you can hear my voice clearer. You can hear less of the background and ambience of the room and more of my voice. If I start coming back here again, you can clearly tell I'm in a room. It might be a sort of more dead sounding room, but you can hear the reflections of the room. You can hear I'm in a room. So people think that you need to treat your complete room to deal with this, but you actually don't. You want to think about how your microphone is going to capture the sound and block the reflections that are going to reflect back into the microphone. You are recording the microphone after all. So it's going to pick up the most sound from in front of it, obviously, so where you're standing. But you've got to remember there's probably a wall behind you. So if it's hitting the wall and bouncing straight back into the front of the microphone, that's going to be quite of a louder reflection. Now, you can reduce this a little bit by going further away from the wall behind you, so make that distance greater, and so that's going to reduce the effect of it. Or you could place something that's going to absorb the sound. So you could use a thick blanket, a curtain, a pillow or something, and mount that up behind you. If you've got some microphone stands or something, you can actually just mount it over those between you and the wall, and that's going to absorb the reflections. It's not going to absorb all of them, and it's not proper acoustic treatment, but it will more than get the job done for this. And then you've also got behind the mic, it will pick up a little bit. It'll reject a lot of sound, but it'll also pick up things. So you've got to remember that you've got the wall in front of you as well. So I would like to treat a little bit in front of me. So I'd probably do the same thing. Throw a blanket behind the mic in front of you where you're looking at, and make yourself sort of like into a little cave sort of thing there. They're the most important ones I find. I find the side ones aren't quite as important, although if you want to, go for it, do 3 sides and then you can or 4 sides, and you can sort of box yourself in. But it's quite cheap. It doesn't cost you anything to be able to do that, and it makes a large difference in your sound. Now you can kind of hear me now. I'm just sitting at my desk at my computer, and you can hear the sound. It's bouncing off my desk and everything like that. But what I would do is put something down on there to stop those reflections if I was recording in this sort of environment. Which I don't do, but if I was to do that, that's the sort of things I would be looking at. I can hear it bouncing off my desk, so I'd put something down on my desk just to stop the sound bouncing up so much. The last thing I want to just talk about before we get into the DAW is a note on timing. So a lot of vocals and vocal tracks I hear, aside from the pitch being quite off in some of them, which I will help out with, is the timing. People really need to understand and learn in their own time, I guess, the musical timing. So from a single note and how that divides up into quavers and semi-quavers, and where your notes are supposed to be hitting in the bar. Quite often I find vocalists send or are creating tracks that are quite out of time of where they're supposed to be, and I can hear what they're intending to do, but they're probably half a beat to a beat off what they're intending to do. So it's really good to do some exercises on timing, like just general music timing, and learning where your beats fall and where your musical notes fall. Vocals can be a little bit different because you're making different sounds that can possibly lead into the note. So as a general rule, I suppose, vowels, when the vowel comes in is where the note is actually starting, and the consonants can come before it. It's not all the time, but that's something to be aware of. So if I'm saying the word wait, the w comes in before, and the a is where the beat hits. So it's wait, and the beat comes in on the a, not the w. So you don't want to line up your start of your vocal with the start of the bar, because that's actually not correct. The w is a lead-in note to the a, and the a is where you actually hit on time with that. So it's just something to be aware of, and you'll obviously pick those things up the more you practice at things, but timing does seem to be a big issue in some of these communities, so I just thought it was worth making a note of that. Obviously there's pitch, which I can help a lot with, and timing, which you will need to do a little bit of your own research to understand those things without me explaining to you here. So I think we might jump into the DAW, turn on our microphone, set up some of these. As you can see in front of me, I've just got a little bit of a chord progression and a MIDI guide. So I'm going to jump in and show you what those are and how they work and how that all relates to recording vocals. All right, next I'm going to show you, now we're jumping into the DAW, I'm going to show you my first little trick that I know about to help you out to get your vocals right. And this is before you even start recording anything or even arming or turning on your vocal mic. The first thing that you might want to do is get MIDI and MIDI out your vocal melody that you want to sing. So I've got a chord progression here that I've just quickly mocked up. Nothing fancy. All right, now I've worked out just a simple melody that I just took 2 seconds to quickly work out as an example. Now I want to make this melody, but I can't sing very well. I can't sing for shit, basically. So what I wanted to do was make something that is a guide for me. So that's what this is. So this would be my melody. Okay. So how I got to that is, let me duplicate this track. Just delete everything. So it's, I get my song and I go da, 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 da. Okay, I've got, this track is just loaded up with, sorry, this bottom track here is just loaded up with any old synth. Any old synth. I've just got a piano on it, any sort of instrument that is going to give you a pitch and timing. You want it something that doesn't have any decay or any reverbs or anything on it, because that's going to just distract from the main vocal. It's just something simple that's just going to give you the notes that you need. Now, if I set it up and arm it and everything, I can hear these notes as I click them. Okay, so dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. And from this one I can tell, because it's going to be a similar melody. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so I just worked that out by humming the vocals along to myself and just working it out note by note. This is going to start really hard. You're going to be like, oh, I'm so frustrated, I can't find the notes that I want. You're just going to have to sort of hear it in your head, even if you can't quite sing the pitch, hear it in your head and think about it. If you can't get it from start to end, you don't necessarily have to do it in that order. The end note might be the easiest to get, so you can come here and go, dun. Okay, that might be easier to find. Dun, dun. There it is. So do that first and work backwards from there. Once I've got that note there, I can use that as a reference to work out where these other notes are. So I'm like, dun, 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 dun. And then I can work out what notes I've got. It does help if you have a little bit of theory knowledge here to know what key you're in. But really you can use your ears and hit the notes to get whatever pitch you want. So now that I've done that, I now have my guide. I'm going to go back to my song here, delete what I had and go back to it, because that's just the same thing. Now I've got a pitch guide. Now that's going to make things a lot easier to sing along with. If I am a terrible singer, so let's try and do it without anything to guide me. Da, 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 da. So especially the start of that was pretty bad. It was way off time. Let's chuck this pitch guide on. Da, 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 da. Still a little bit off pitch on those first few notes, but with a few takes I could probably get that, and that was definitely sounding a lot better. Once I laid my take down, I can mute that, and I'm done. So that would be setting up a MIDI guide to record to. So I would go through my entire song, and then I can sit here too if I wanted to make some changes to it. Dun, dun. So if I want it to be dun, dun, dun. I can muck around in here without having to worry about how I'm going to re-sing everything. And without being a good singer, I can just sit here and muck around with my melody in here. Another thing to note is that now that I've got my melody, let's just say I want to do a harmony on it. I can grab my melody and maybe there. I don't know if this is going to be good or not, but this is how we work it out. Might have to change some of the notes, but... terrible, but you understand what I mean. Okay, that sounds a little bit better. But then you could go in and change notes to work it out. Make my melody. And then what I could do is duplicate this track to a second track, delete my original melody, and then I now have a pitch guide for my harmony. And that will help me on my harmonies as well. I don't have to guess where I'm singing my harmonies, and obviously, as I said, I'm not a very good singer, so I don't want to be trying to work all that out. I just want to have a guide and follow that guide. Alright guys, now that we've done that, we've got a guide now, so I'm just going to duplicate this guide so that I can keep the harmony. I'm not sure if we're going to use it or not, but I can keep the harmony and just have my main vocal back again. Cool. That's deleted out. Cool. Alright, now this is my guide that I'm going to use. Let's set up and arm our mic. So I'm going to enter a track, choose my input, which in my case is line 8. Let's call it vocal. Let's arm it, so then I should be able to hear myself through it. I'm just going to turn off my voiceover track. So you should be able to hear me. Oh, obviously I'm at a lot lower volume there because I didn't have my limiter on, but it's exactly the same signal coming in here that it was in my voiceover. So what I might do is turn my voiceover off, keep my voiceover on. Okay, so now we've got our vocal track here. We've armed it, and what one good thing to do to record with would be to throw a compressor on it. So I'm going to go down here and just use a stock compressor in Reaper. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at stock settings here. I'm gonna go about between 6 and 8 to 1. Now this isn't anything that you have to do as a settings. Sorry guys, cut out my voice over there, but this isn't something that you have to do as a setting or anything like that, but it's kind of helps you singing. It will make the voice sound more powerful and everything like that. So let's have a look here. I'm going to set up, I don't know why I'm getting a lower input on that, so let's turn off the voiceover and get this vocal set up really good. So firstly, I want to set up my interface input so that I'm not clipping here. See, I'm getting too loud and clipping. I want to be about between -6 and -3 when I'm talking. So somewhere around -6, I know I'm going to get louder, so I want to leave myself a bit of room there. So that might be good because I leave myself a bit of room. And then if I get louder, that's going to almost peak. So that will be fine because I'm going to throw a compressor on it, but I might just go down 1 notch just to make sure. Cool. Okay, I've given myself a bit of room there. Now let's grab our compressor and start compressing it down. I would compress the shit out of it. I'd be looking at like -12 on this gain reduction, coming right down here. And then we can probably bring our signal up a little bit to compensate for the volume. So now I'm getting a good volume out of it. My input isn't going too bad, and I've got some compression on it, so I sound nice and forward and sounding reasonably good. Okay, so now I'm going to use my pitch guide and do a couple of takes of this. I wouldn't worry if with some of those notes, see the plosives, if I go p, it's gonna peak. There's just not too much you can do about that apart from throw on throw on a windscreen or something like that. As in like a pop filter. You could even make your own. There's DIY videos out there how to make them with some like pantyhose and a coat hanger. I've definitely done that before and it works. The difference is if you buy one, it clips onto the stand a little bit better. That's basically the difference, but the functionality is exactly the same. So if you want to DIY, that's a good little trick to do. At the moment, I'm not using a pop filter or anything, so that those plosives are going to peak the mic a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to throw on my metronome and try and sing a couple of takes of this and see how I go. I'm going to actually go back so that I can have a lead in. So that's why I left myself a bit of a gap. You never want to just start your song on bar 1. You want to leave yourself a bit of a gap so you don't cut off the first note, and you also give yourself a bit of lead in. Da, 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 da. I'm going to do another one. Da, 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 da. All right, I think I got what I need now. So I can trim these up just a little bit tidier. Now I can listen to both my takes. I can mute this and check out both my takes. So I'm going to just flick back to my voiceover. Now I've got my voiceover back on. Oh, probably need to turn my inputs right back down again. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, that's what's going on. Cool. Okay, so now let's try my takes. I'm pretty sure the first one, I didn't realize that the melody had changed, that I'd changed the melody, so I sung it a little bit off. Da, 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 da. Not too bad. Da, 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 da. Okay, I definitely sung that second note a lot better in that second take. So what I want to do is chop my takes together and take the best of what I've got. So I would do more takes, obviously, if I was actually recording this, but let's just say I've got all my takes that I like, but I like this take, but this note is better in this take. So if I come in here and I cut this note out, I can cut in what I've got here, cut in what I've got here, take this take and chop this one in. Now I might have to do a little bit of fiddling around because as you can see visually, the note doesn't exactly line up time-wise. So let's just see where we can fit this in. Da, 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 da. So that was a little bit choppy on this end, wasn't it? So okay, so if I soften that a little bit, that fits a little bit. Da, 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 da. Now that's a little bit choppy in that case. I would probably find better takes to do it. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it doesn't really work overly well. But you can edit your vocals, and I recommend that you edit your vocals and do the takes that it takes to make yourself sound good. Don't just one take everything, as a lot of people seem to do. You can do a bunch of takes. So let's do some more takes and just see how good we can get this. Da, da. I probably need to arm this again and turn on my MIDI guide. So let's just turn this back up. All right, let's go. Da, 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 da. That first note's just really getting me. So if I go a few times, I'll get the hang of it and I'll be able to pick up on that pitch. Da, 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 da. Sounded like I might have got that first note going okay now. So let's have a listen to that take. Da, da. It's a lot better than any of the other takes I've done. So let's try and chop some of these takes together. Da, 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 da. There we go. Now I've got my takes. Now what I'll do is actually set up a new track down here, and I would record everything onto this track that I've set up, and then move it down. Get rid of our takes now because we don't need them. Get rid of what's up here. Now we've got our take, chop it down, trim all our silence out because we don't want all our background noise. And this would be main vocal. Cool. We'll put our effects on there. Da, 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 da. Alright, now let's do a take to go with it. So I'm going to duplicate the tracks, get rid of the audio, and let's try and do this harmony. Let's have a go. See how we go. Don't know how successful I'm going to be at this. Sometimes it just takes the time it takes to get the vocals down. You're not going to get it in half an hour even, or an hour or 2 hours. Sometimes you've just got to do it and do it and do it until you can get it. Da, 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 da. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the main vocal because that's distracting me. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Alright, that sounded pretty okay. So I'm going to just throw that down. Let's pretend I edited that all up and it does sound good. just for the sake of time. So I did the same thing on that track, edited it. Now let's throw them both together. Da, 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 da. Now you can hear how they're not quite in time exactly, some of these notes, and you can visually see it on there. What we can do is go into our audio again and have a bit of a look here, and we might be able to chop up some of these to get them a bit more in time. So look where it's in time and where it goes out, and you might be able to chop some things a little bit better to get into time. So this is all looking pretty good from the end backwards all the way up to this note. So it's only really the first two notes that are out of time. Really, it's the second note. So what I can do is chop that there, chop that there. Now, the only more complicated thing that I'd do here is I might need to stretch this note out. So ideally what I would do is record it again so that it's sung long enough. But see how it's a little bit shorter than the other note? I can maybe trick the computer and audio somewhere along here. If I don't make too much of a drastic change to the audio, I may be able to get that to just fit in. Da, 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 da. I mean, I couldn't even really hear that edit in there, so that would be good enough for me. And it sounds a little bit more tight than what it was before, where you could hear those first two notes really being out of time. Da, 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 da. As opposed to this. Da, 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 da. Just sounds so out of time there. This is much tighter. Da, 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 da. And then if I want to add more layers, so this would be main vocal 2. If I want to add more layers, I'll just keep going and copying my process and obviously following along the song and continuing along until I got to the end with my entire vocals and my entire vocal harmony, and that would be it.